Hey guys, JV here with Level Up Gaming, sharing our Overwatch hero guide for Soldier 76. This video will teach you the basics of Soldier, what his hero role is, how he fits into team compositions, and what his abilities are and how to use them, as well as the more advanced nuances of this hero, such as strategies on how to effectively play him, enemy hero counters, maps he succeeds on, and his position in the current meta. This is everything you need to know about Soldier 76. Before we begin, all of the info in this video is based on the current meta and hero balancing on January 18th of 2017. Any information and advice is subject to change based on future hero balancing, though most of these tips should be general enough to be universally helpful unless Soldier is overhauled or reworked entirely, which I don't see happening. I'll do my best to update my thoughts on the hero as changes are made in the comment section of this video. Starting with the basics, Soldier's role in Overwatch is as a medium-range DPS hero. He is categorized as an offensive hero, but you should note that he can be just as effective on defense because of his kit. In fact, you'll find Soldiers on offense and defense a lot of the time as one of the two DPS heroes because he is one of the most popular heroes in the game for many reasons that we'll go over in this video. As a medium-range DPS hero, Soldier is one of the easiest to succeed with. He's just got all of the tools in the toolbox, they're easy to learn, and once you've mastered them, they're very hard to counter. At the most basic level, Soldier is built to deal damage, and he's very, very good at it. When looking at Soldier in team compositions, I think he's one of the most versatile and universally helpful heroes in any composition, no matter what. If you hop into a competitive game and everyone else has chosen their hero except for you, and there's one slot for maybe an extra support, a tank, or a damage dealer, let's say it's even across the board, plugging in a Soldier most likely is going to be one of the best picks that you can make. If you don't already have a Soldier on your team and things aren't working out, a specific hero is being countered, then a switch to Soldier can truly help. It can turn the tides of a competitive match. With regards to choosing Soldier on offense or defense, once again, he just deals consistent damage that is universally helpful on both sides of the objective. It really doesn't matter. He fits in almost anywhere. While I do think he's a very great pick across the board no matter who's on your team, I've found a few pairings that work particularly well. Number one, he pairs well with a McCree or a Pharah for range superiority, and when you have a very good Soldier matched with a very good McCree and Pharah, it's very hard to counter for the enemy team. At the same time, Soldier is capable of dealing large bursts of damage, and having a Zenyatta to discord your enemies, especially enemy Pharahs up in the air, is great. He is very good at burning down enemies, and having that extra damage from a Zenyatta is super helpful. You'll also find that Soldier pairs very well with any hero who has an ultimate that stun locks enemies or prevents them from moving because of his own ultimate tactical visor. So if you have a Zarya, a Reinhardt, or a Mei on your team, any of those ults will pair very well with Soldier. And of course we have Ana, who has the power boost. A boosted Soldier who's using tactical visor is extremely deadly. You just want to get out of the way because it's that good. Now let's take a look at Soldier's abilities, and we're going to start out by talking about his weapon, his heavy pulse rifle, which is a fully automatic rifle. Since the weapon is fully automatic, it suffers from bloom, meaning the longer that you fire, the less accurate your shots are going to be. Since release, Soldier has had a balancing update that increased the maximum bloom of his weapon, but also increased the maximum damage per bullet. The result is that it's currently most effective to feather or burst the trigger on your enemies instead of just holding down the weapon and allowing it to fully bloom. This is Soldier's main method of dealing damage, and honestly, the heavy pulse rifle is so good. It's capable of burning down any enemy with consecutive shots on target. As long as you're feathering that trigger and keeping on point and even getting headshots, you will kill enemies very quickly. There is a damage fall off at medium ranges, so Soldier is most effective at short to medium range, but mostly in terms of your positioning, you don't want to be short range against enemies. You want to keep them at medium range. Next is Soldier's Helix rockets, which is a bundle of precision, fast-traveling rockets with small splash damage. This is an ability that Soldier will want to use on cooldown as much as possible because it takes a large chunk out of enemies if it actually hits them. It brings the weakest heroes, which have 150 to 200, to very low health if you get a direct impact. The rockets are incredibly useful as a finisher on enemies. If you're waiting for the cooldown to come back around, you've already got shots on a target, you will finish a lot of people off with a Helix rocket. While there is a very small damage radius, you can certainly damage groups of enemies with this if they're not being protected by a Reinhardt, for example. You're behind them. If you you catch 2 enemies that are very close together, or 3 if you're lucky, then you can splash damage all of them. It is certainly useful against groups. One of the best things to learn about the Helix rocket is to aim at the ground when you are shooting at your enemy, because you can easily miss if you do aim at the ground in a general area. Unless you're facing a Tracer or a Genji or a Winston, someone that can jump out of it, you're probably going to get them. Unless you've been outflanked as Soldier and you're panicking to try to kill a Mei or someone that's very close to you and you can guarantee an impact, it's best to aim at the ground at your target, because you will benefit from almost the maximum amount of damage from the small splash radius. One of Soldier's more unique abilities is Sprint, which has 0 cooldown. It is very much an activate and deactivate ability. He's the only hero in Overwatch besides Lucio with a readily available speed boost at all times. It is so useful to be able to sprint around and get around places quickly with Soldier. From a practical standpoint, this is so useful for closing the gap from spawn to objective. If you just died and you need to get back on the objective as quickly as possible, sprinting, you just can't match Soldier's sprint ability. Also for flanking behind enemy lines and returning safely. If you can go behind enemies, pick off one of their supports, maybe a Mercy, a Lucio, a Zenyatta, somebody that's keeping the enemy team alive, you can sprint behind them and then return safely. It's not a one-way trip with Soldier. If you can get behind enemies, get a great pick, and return safely, you're doing your job. Soldier also has the ability to heal himself and his teammates with the Biotic Field, which is a small area of effect health field he can place on the ground anywhere. The field provides 40 health per second over 5 seconds, which can fully heal a Soldier if he stays inside of it. And again, it can be used on your squad mates. You can become Healer 76 in no time with the Biotic Field. Biotic Field does have a long cooldown, 15 seconds, so you don't want to waste your Biotic Fields, but a lot of the strategies with the Biotic Field, of course, are if you are low health and there's no healer in range, get behind something and throw it down. But you'll also find a lot of Soldiers plant down their Biotic Field while they're in conflict. If they come up to you and they're attacking you, they'll place it down while they're shooting at you, and as they're dealing damage to you, they will heal themselves. That is the strategy that you want to use as Soldier to get 1v1 picks. If you come up behind somebody, again, flank them, plant down a Biotic Field, it's hard to take you down because you are healing yourself and dealing damage to them. On the same token, it's very useful in group conflicts. If you are getting hit from multiple sources, that Biotic Field keeps you alive and kind of lessens the strain on your healers to keep you alive, since you can indeed heal yourself. He's one of the few heroes in the game that can heal himself, and it's really an invaluable ability. Soldier's ultimate ability is Tactical Visor, which is essentially an aimbot that targets any enemies that are in his line of sight, and if you kill them, it'll switch to the next one. If they go out of your line of sight, it'll switch to whoever is within his line of sight. During the 6 seconds that this ability is active, his reload speed is halved as well, so you're going to be shooting quickly, reloading very quickly, and it has one of the highest charge costs, but it's fairly easy to get often as Soldier, since it's really easy to charge as Soldier. He's one of the best heroes in the game. In terms of womboing with other ultimates in the game, he combos very well with Zarya, of course, unless there's a Reinhardt putting up the shield and blocking the Graviton Surge. Anything that stuns enemy heroes, like we talked about before, like a Reinhardt Earthshatter, a Mei, freezing everyone up, Soldier can rip through all of them. And of course, Ana. Arguably, Soldier is the best person to be powered up by Ana outside of Reinhardt. But of course, when you are using Soldier's Tactical Visor, beware of enemy Lucios and Zens. They might have ultimates that will make your ultimate completely useless. So it's best to try to goat them out first, maybe use another ultimate on your team to force a Lucio or a Zen to use their ultimate, and then you can go ahead and rip through the enemy team without worrying about that. Finally, something to remember is that Tactical Visor has a fairly good surprise element to it. If you're able to sprint behind enemies, flank behind enemy lines, and then activate Tactical Visor behind a Reinhardt or behind a tank that's protecting the rest of the team, you can get a lot of picks very quickly. This will burn through those support heroes that are unprotected. So you can flank around enemies. Some people will be able to react to it quickly, but just know that that ability is there. Now that the basics are out of the way, let's talk about more of the nuances about Soldier and the ways to play him effectively, strategies that will lead to success for your team. Perhaps the most important thing for any hero, and it feels like Soldier in particular because you can have some bad soldiers on your team that can really bring you down, is positioning. Positioning is key. You need to always know where you are in relation to your teammates and in relation to the enemy team. 9 times out of 10, you should almost always be at medium range between you and your enemies, because that's where you are most deadly and you're not vulnerable from those high damage close-up characters like Mei, who can freeze you easily, Roadhog, who can hook you, and Reaper, who can two-shot you. One of the other things that's true in most cases, but especially for Soldier, is that the high ground is certainly favored. You want to have the high ground. You want to be above your enemies in more cases than not. A lot of maps in Overwatch have power positions where if you position yourself correctly with Soldier, then you're hard to take down and it's really a nuisance for the enemy team. So high ground is almost always favored. It's very easy to get into a cycle with Soldier of just sitting down and not taking advantage of his mobility, and sprinting is so important for a good Soldier. You have other damage dealing heroes like a Tracer or a Genji, for example, that can get around enemy flanks and deal some damage, but Soldier deals much more consistent damage. It's a lot easier to use as well. Sprint gives him the ability to flank so effectively, use tactical visor, pick off supports, chase down slow heroes that are trying to retreat. As a Soldier, you should be doing all of these things, and if you do them effectively, then you will win, you will win the game for your team. And as you're flanking and getting picks, it's just as important to realize that when you're outnumbered, when in doubt, you can use Sprint and Biotic Field to save your life. You can run out of those conflicts that are not favorable, you can put down a Biotic Field and save your own life. Something that I always do as a Soldier, and something that I appreciate from teammate Soldiers, in the case that I'm not playing a Soldier, is in a chokehold situation on an assault map like Hanamura, for example, when there is a Reinhardt just sitting, holding off a chokehold, you can't get around them, concentrate your fire on that Reinhardt shield. One of the main reasons for Reinhardt being effective is to put up that 2000 damage shield that he can just throw up and hold off a choke point. As Soldier, you have a lot of damage. You can burn down that shield if you concentrate fire on it. If there's no other option, you know, there's no Pharah in the sky, there's nothing else that you can shoot out. If everyone's hiding behind that Reinhardt shield, it is your job to bring that shield down. In general, the thing that separates a good Soldier from a bad Soldier is a mix of aggressive pushing and smart positioning. There will be Soldiers that will try to flank and they will get picked because they don't know when to pull out, they don't know when to throw down that Biotic Field or sprint out of a certain situation. As long as you have a mix of aggressive pushing, getting those picks, not overextending, then you're doing your job. You're going to get gold with damage, you're going to mostly get gold eliminations because Soldier is so strong right now. And if you're not, there could be a variety of reasons. There could be a very good other attacker on your team, but by and large, if you're playing an effective Soldier, you're going to earn those medals. It's very easy to get complacent with a Soldier, to sit back on your heels behind a Reinhardt shield and just dole out the damage but not really get any picks. That's not where you want to be with Soldier. You want to flank around enemies, you want to get behind enemy lines, catch them by surprise, pick off their supports, burn down those Rein shields. You want a real mix of aggressive pushing but smart positioning. When looking at counter heroes for Soldier 76, we're going to talk about the heroes that he should target and certainly go for, but also those that he should avoid. It's hard to pick a certain set of targets for Soldier because he is so strong in the current hero balancing and meta of the game. He's very good against slow heroes that can't get away, very good against burning down tanks because they're such huge targets. He's excellent against supports that have very low health because of his burst damage, but in my experience, the most important target for Soldier to look for and kill immediately and not let them do their thing on the enemy team is an enemy Pharah. If a Pharah is allowed to just hover in the air and rain down missiles on your team and is, power boosted by a Mercy or any other combination that's good with a Pharah, that's bad news, and Soldier is the ultimate counter to Pharah. You can shut them down. I can't tell you how many times I've run another offensive character and needed to switch to a Soldier because there is an enemy Pharah just blowing up my team. Soldier is the ultimate counter to Pharah. He shuts her down. And a lot of the times, since Soldier is so strong, he needs to be countered by another Soldier. So if there is an enemy Soldier on the other team, as Soldier, you should probably be going for him. Moving on to heroes you should avoid as a Soldier, it's a lot of the poke flanking heroes that can get around you and overwhelm you, like a Tracer, a Genji, a Winston. Avoid those heroes. Run out of the situation, heal up if you need to, reposition yourself at that medium range. Remember, positioning is so important. You don't want to get caught off guard by those poke flank heroes. Ever since Zenyatta got his balancing update, he can take down Soldiers very easily, so watch out for sneaky Zenyatas that have a line of sight on you that you may not see. Of course, watch out for other Soldiers. Like we said, it's both a target and an avoid for Soldier himself. Also, watch out for the flanking D.Va. D.Va is one of the best 1v1 heroes in the game. She can take on a lot of other heroes 1v1, and Soldier does have Biotic Field. You can overwhelm a D.Va, but just remember they have the defense matrix and they can easily absorb everything that you throw at them while also dealing out a decent amount of damage. There are a lot of maps in Overwatch that cater to specific heroes, and I would say for Soldier that's not so much the case. He's great overall on almost every map in the game. His performance is really not map specific, but nonetheless we'll go through each of the types of maps and kind of talk about where he's useful. Starting with the assault maps, that's Hanamura, Anubis, and Volskaya. I think Soldier is a fairly good pick. I think this is his weakest pick, if there even is a weak pick for him, just because it's hard to flank around on that first point. You have to essentially tear through the Reinhardt shield if there's a Reinhardt on defense, which there should be on those maps. But if you're on attack with Soldier, you have to tear through that shield first, and then it's a little easier to flank around. You've got more routes on the second point of all of these maps. In terms of defense, Soldier has one of the best kits for just standing his ground. Ironically, he's an offense hero, but again, like I said, he's universally useful. It doesn't really matter. He's very good at standing his ground and defending a point, so he's great on assault maps for that. For the control maps, Nepal, Lijiang Tower, Ilios, and Oasis, Soldier is a great pick. He's able to flank and get those picks on attack, get rid of those supports, but also hold down points, place down that biotic field, and really defend from the enemy team. He's a great defender. Moving now to escort maps, we've got Dorado, Gibraltar, and Route 66. He's a great pick on these maps. He's able to flank around. There's lots of different routes, and he can pick off supports on attack. Very, very valuable to have a Soldier on these maps. And again, on defense, he's very strong, and even with the payload, you're allowed to almost flank around the enemy team, even if you're on defense, and that's another layer of his value on these maps. On hybrid maps, which are Kings Row, Numbani, Hollywood, and now Eichenwald, he's also a great pick. This is just a combination of the two maps we've already talked about, but again, he flanks and picks on attack, he stands his ground, and is able to defend easily on defense. If it wasn't hammered down already, the point is that Soldier is great on almost all maps. He's not super situational for maps, he's just really good across the board. So to wrap up this hero guide, let's talk about the current meta with Soldier. Right now, as the game stands, Soldier is an easy choice in most comps. It really doesn't matter what else you have going on. He's an easy hero to learn. He's an easy hero to succeed with. He's great in all phases, offense and defense. He's great on all maps. He's great against most heroes, and he can be countered, but a good Soldier will overcome those counters. And for these reasons, I think Soldier is due for a nerf because he's just a notch above every other damage dealer in the game. In a situation where you have equal times played and experience with a McCree or a Soldier, or a Tracer and a Soldier, a Genji and a Soldier, almost always the answer is going to be pick Soldier. That's going to help our team more. We will probably find more success with the Soldier over anything else. That concludes our Overwatch Hero Guide for Soldier 76, but we'd like to hear from you all in the comment section below. What are some tips that you use to play a more effective Soldier? How are you dominating your games with Soldier 76? Any kind of tips that could help people watching this video, please share them in the comment section below. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for constant updates on when we're uploading new content. Check out our website at levelupgmg.com, where you'll find complete libraries of every single video we upload moving into the future. Also, if you're feeling generous, consider supporting us further through our Patreon. Becoming a patron allows you to engage with us directly and unlock exclusive content like monthly Q&A videos. So visit our Patreon if you'd like to learn more. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and click subscribe if you haven't already for more tips and tricks and gaming related videos. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time here on Level Up Gaming.